I'm Cheryl Soleway, and today I'm excited to bring you a conversation that will inspire, uplift, and challenge the way that you think about aging. My guest today is Lucy Bleviss, a youthful 72-year young powerhouse who had spent over 30 years in senior roles in labor relations and human resources and as an executive coach. But rather than slow down when she chose to retire, Lucy chose to reimagine herself and embrace a whole new chapter in life. You know, Lucy, I saw you the other day at the gym, and we see each other pretty regularly in the gym. You're so consistent with that. But when you mentioned to me that you're 72, I went, "Wait, what? Wait, what? When did that happen?" Because, girlfriend, what I know of you is you've been this high powered executive. I know that you were in human resources and in executive counseling and coaching. Tell me, catch me up to date just a little bit with what's happened since the last time I talked to you.
Cheryl, there is so much that has happened in my life.
Really?
Where do you want me to begin?
So, start with like all the years I've known you, you were a high powered executive. When did you decide to retire?
Here's basically my trajectory. So, I loved my work. So, I did
Yeah.
a lot of labor relations, human resources, and I did a lot of executive coaching. About 5, 6 years ago, I thought, okay, this is it. I'm ready. I'm ready to move on to the next phase. However, I just said, well, maybe I'll try one more year, one more year, one more
Yeah.
year, one more year. And about 2, 3 years ago, that's when I finally said to my boss, look, I need to phase out. I don't like to call it retirement,
Good
Cheryl,
for
because
you.
it's not retirement. It's just the next phase in my life. And then I decided to travel and hike for about 2 months, backpacking through Spain, through Portugal,
Go, girl.
and why I did that is because it gave me time to reflect and ponder what is it that's important to me? How do I want to reimagine myself? And what is going to be the next phase in my life? And I'm on a trajectory to rock the ages, Cheryl.
Oh my goodness. God, I love this. You're like the modern eat, pray, love, I think. How old are you then? Like if you're 72, was this like 68, 69?
That I stopped working.
Yeah.
I think I stopped working probably 69, 70, and that.
Holy crow.
Yep.
Like even that's amazing. Everybody that puts all that in a bag of chips into retiring early. Um, I love that. You're just reinventing yourself. I don't ever want to use that word either. I'm still working as a realtor and I maybe always will, but it's never retiring. We're just changing periods or I love that you're reinventing yourself. So then, yeah, you went to Spain and tell me again about that.
I went to Spain, I went to Portugal. So I walked the Camino, and that's about 800 kilometers backpacking. I did that solo, and I wanted to do it solo. And from there, they call it the end of the earth. I went there. Unfortunately, when I finished, we were getting the remnants of the Kirk hurricane. And so it was a torrential downpour. So I took the bus back to Santiago de Compostela. And then I said, I'm going to head to North Spain and I'm going to start walking to Portugal.
Gee whiz.
And so I was walking along the coast, Portugal. I did that for about a week and then said, now I want to take the train and I'm going to go to Porto. So I spent some time in Porto, took the train to Lisbon, spent some time to Lisbon. And then I said, I want to do the Fisherman's Walk. It's a lovely walk along the Atlantic Ocean in Portugal, and you're going south. So I did a week of that and then ended up in the Algarves. So I left Canada August 26th and I came back October 25th.
By yourself.
By myself. I love traveling solo. I've got my partner, but my partner isn't to doing some of the things that I do.
Totally.
And all my life, I've said, and especially now, I'm not going to wait for someone to do the things that I want. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. Of course, within reason.
Right. Where did you even start? Did you go online to look up hikes, adventure hikes? Tell me the beginning. How did you figure out where to go?
I've known about the Camino for several
Huh.
years, and I've known many, many people who've done the Camino. So I did all my research. I read up about it, etc. Figured out what's the best time of the year to go, and booked my tickets, spend 1 week in Paris eating croissants before I went,
Right?
and then started the hike.
Holy. And so what did you carry? What was in that backpack? I'm
I
curious.
weighed it. It was about 13 pounds. So basically, a couple pairs of shorts, a couple pairs of skirts. I took way too many socks. I took 6 socks because I didn't know which ones would work. Um, and my bottle, which I carried water in, and good rain jacket, a
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
poncho, a toque, some gloves, and that was about it.
Where would you sleep at night? What was your
To explain, they're like hostels.
okay.
And so some of them would have 50 people, some would have
Oh,
25. So my strategy was Monday through Thursday, I would stay in these dorms. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I would book a private room. And the private rooms could be booked right in the dorms. Why I loved it, because it was a community for me. I was never alone. And
okay.
on the Camino, you're never alone. There's always people
Mm,
ahead of you,
mm.
people behind you. You meet people in the dorms. And the other thing about staying in these dorms is some of them will offer dinner. So if you want to partake in dinner, it's X number of euros. And there's a long table. Everybody gets to introduce themselves, meet themselves, where are they from. Copious amounts of wine. Everybody's in bed by 9 o'clock, and then you start the next day.
What would the age grouping be like?
I walked with young ladies that were in their 20s, and I also walked
Gee,
with people who were in their 80s.
seriously.
Hmm.
Oh, the stories you would
Yes,
have heard and the
yes,
whys. Why were they there?
yes.
Often in my fitness classes, I'll bring little pieces of paper and markers and I'll ask the people to share, write down their purposeful why. Why did they come to class that day? And you kind of think, oh, because I want to get fit, I want to lose weight. And very few of them is that their purposeful why. Often their purposeful why has to do with camaraderie, friendship, that sort of thing. Like, I would love to know, why were those 20-year-olds doing that amazing hike and why were the 80-year-olds? What do you think?
Yeah. So, like you said, Cheryl, everybody has a different reason for doing the
Yes.
Camino. Some of them is spiritual, religious.
Mm.
Some of them have a gap year. So some of the 20-year-olds were teachers from Belgium, from Germany, taking a gap year. I met some students who finished their masters, don't know if they're going to go into law or whatever, taking time. And that time while you're walking, you have the option, you have a choice. Do I want to join someone, or do I want to be on my own?
Right.
Um, a
Wow.
lot of them were on their own. A lot of them were couples, a lot of women in groups. There were some people that maybe lost a partner,
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
lot of people who were just overcoming some sort of disease, dealing with a disease. There was a couple of times when I was on my own because I was doing a lot of reflection.
Yep.
Um, there were a couple of times when I got into my dorm and I was soaking wet and I was so tired and I just sat down and cried
Did you?
and
Oh,
cried.
I love it.
But fortunately, there were people that knew me, and everybody on the Camino is the same. You have nothing to prove.
Yeah.
You have basically wear the same clothes from day to day, because when you come in, you wash your clothes out and then you hang it to dry.
Cool.
So
Oh.
there is nothing there to be pretentious about, to
Mhm.
show off. Um, Everybody wakes up in the morning, hair uncombed, put on your shorts, and away you go with your coffee cup.
We have a bug situation. Lucy, what is inspiring me here is, I do talk about the 7 keys. And you're going to talk to me about your 3 pillars, aren't you?
I
So we're going to
am.
get there, but similarly, they do overlap. Well, my number one key, bar none, is your mental health, your mental fitness, your mental attitude. That do people, for instance, have a plan in place? That's part of that mental strategy. My grandma passed at 102, I say to people. So if I've got 40 years basically left to go, I need a plan. I need, so for you though, to talk about doing your trek and your hike because of that mental health side of it, oh my gosh, that resonates. So let's have you explain your 3 pillars.
Sure.
I really want to hear that. And have you always followed basically these 3 pillars, or is this relatively new?
So, with my 3 pillars, the mental wellness, the physical wellness, and the spiritual wellness. As you know, we grow up, you finish your college or university, and you get into career.
Hmm.
You get married, you have babies. you're so busy, you're so distracted with so many things. And I think, well, I can still do self care when I'm doing all this. But how much self care was I really doing with all the distractions? Now I'm at the stage in my life, and I'll just go back a little bit, and certainly mental wellness, physical wellness, and spirituality was always important to me,
Hmm.
even during those times when I was extremely busy.
Hey.
But I wasn't fully immersed.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't fully experiencing them. This is my time, Cheryl.
Yeah, it is.
And so I said to myself, I've always been interested in my mental wellness.
Hmm.
How do I keep my mental wellness positive?
Hmm.
Physical wellness was always part of my repertoire,
Exactly.
always.
Yeah.
Keeping myself fit, keeping myself healthy, eating healthy, and spirituality was always part of my repertoire. So now that I'm not working, I practice all of these three pillars with intent.
Now, in the practice, for instance, in yoga, we talk about mind, body, and spirit. And I know, for instance, from my own boys, from being a mom, talking to one of my sons in particular, we say you have a big ego. All a big ego means is that you have a mind that is fairly noisy and a mind that might be loud in comparison to what the heart can feel. And we try to teach that difference so that you might feel something in your gut, you might feel something in your heart, you might feel something in your head. And if any one of those is louder than the next, that balance can be lost. And so, that beauty of learning to have tools in the toolbox where you can try to balance those out. So, whether you're hiking, whether you're meditating, but trying to quiet the mind, quiet the ego so that the heart can be more open, the heart can feel, and maybe the gut too won't be as upset. I've always known you from the gym. For 16 years that I've been teaching fitness at Predator, you were there in that gym, and my vision of you is this strong, healthy powerhouse. But a little birdie has told me that you have had some physical and some health hurdles. So, can you share
Sure.
with us what those hurdles were?
Sure, I will. And Cheryl, I just want to say that yes, you've seen me in the gym because I'm a bit of a fitness nut.
Yes, you are.
But I'll tell you this, since I stopped working and I've been going to the gym, and of course, I do a lot of weightlifting, I have never felt so strong in my life. Honestly, in my late 50s, when the doctor said, Lucy, I think you've got a heart condition, I mean, I was shocked.
Wait, what? Wait.
Yes. And so my pulse kept decreasing, decreasing, decreasing. And my pulse was going down to 40 to 39. And my physician finally said to me, Lucy, you need to see a cardiologist. And unfortunately, you're going to have to get a pacemaker or you'll be on medications all your life. And I said, a pacemaker? Well,
At what age?
I was 55, 56 when
Huh.
I had to have the pacemaker inserted. Now, the thing was, I chalked it up to my father had a heart condition and he
Okay.
also had a
So,
pacemaker.
some genetic.
So I thought, okay, this is part of my DNA. But I also couldn't figure out, well, I'm so healthy. And then
Mm.
I said to myself, to make myself feel good, well, you are so healthy, Lucy. You've been doing so much running. And as you know, athletes and runners, their pulse goes really low. And the doctors are just afraid. And just for safety, they want to put the pacemaker in.
Huh. Huh.
That's what I said to
Good.
myself.
Yeah.
But
Good
no,
self talk.
my natural pacemaker wasn't working properly.
Huh.
And so the physician said, you cannot continue this way because you're going to faint. You won't be able to drive, etc. So you need something that's going to assist you with your natural pacemaker so your pulse doesn't go down to
What were
50.
your symptoms?
Dizziness.
Okay.
So I still continued running. I still continued doing all the exercises, but I now remember running. And then when I'd stop, etc., I'd get really dizzy.
Hmm.
Or if I'd be sitting for a period of time and try to get up, I'd be really dizzy.
Hmm.
And I would just brush it off. Like,
And sometimes that's related, I think, to just low blood pressure. Like, do you know what the difference is? I don't.
well, my blood pressure was normal. It had
Okay.
really, I don't think that much to do with my blood pressure.
Okay.
It was more with a defect. I think that it was born with
Yeah.
my DNA. And as
Yeah.
I got older, I think I was lucky because I was so healthy
Wow.
and I didn't need one. But as I got older and aged, then it just got worse and worse and
Huh.
worse.
Lucy, one of the things you said to me the other day that made me chuckle was that you no longer identify yourself according to your expired business card. I love that. I love that you are now seeing yourself as becoming a new person. Explain to me what you meant when you said that.
Yeah. Well, as you know, as you travel, meet people, etc., one of the questions people ask, well, what do you do? And sure, when I was working, I had a career, I had a profession. But now I don't want to identify with that because that was a label.
I think that's so cool.
That
And you
was
were
a
good at it
label.
too. I know how good you were at your career. I watched you and realized that you were gifted as a career. I think too, men in particular, Lucy, have a harder time letting that career go and for them to transition. So yeah, I really am. Keep explaining. Like when you've made it pretty clear that you're no longer identified by your expired business card.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I
Yeah.
interrupted. Keep
No,
going.
that's all right. Um, I want to get rid of those labels because if I hang on to that label, I'm still that professional that worked for corporate organizations. Who am I now? I'm
Right.
no longer that person that worked for the corporation. I'm no longer that professional labor relations, human resources, and executive coach. Today, I am that person that enjoys golfing,
Hmm.
that person that does trail running, that person that loves going to the gym. I'm that person that loves to do research about wellness, spiritual wellness, fitness, etc. That's who I am today. And that's how I want to introduce myself to people. So when
Great.
people say, Lucy, what do you do? And I'll say, I do things that bring me joy. But it is really, you reach a certain age and you realize, what does self care mean? And what does it mean to take care of me, be authentic, and be truly the human being I want?
Okay.
Because, like I said, there's only so much, it's all about time. How much time do I have left?
Do you think you could describe for me what are you scared of? What makes you? What are you most afraid of when it comes to aging?
Mm,
Hmm.
why do you think I'm afraid?
Because we all are. Let me tell you one. You know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid of boredom, and I think that's a valid question to ask people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, and I do like that question, Cheryl, and of course it's valid. What am I afraid of as I age? And here's the thing for me, and I often have this discussion with my partner. There's nothing to fear. Why do you fear aging? It's a beautiful, beautiful time in your life. This is what I say to myself, Cheryl, because I don't want to go down that route where it's fearful, it's scary.
Okay.
So I say, I want to age like Jane Fonda with
Yes.
grace and
Yes.
style.
Yes.
Don't misunderstand me. There are challenges,
Right.
but I don't really like to dwell on the fears.
Okay.
And my whole philosophy was even when I was working, feel the fear and do it anyway. It's just like
Yes.
public
Feel the
speaking,
fear and do
do
it
it anyway.
anyway.
And as you know, the more you do it, the more you do it. The fear on a scale of 1 to 10 could have been 10, but the more you do it, it's now dissipated and it could be down to a 5. And so when I think about aging, honestly, right now, I don't fear
Great.
anything. I
Great.
just say to myself, keep that mental wellness in check. Keep the chatter in here. I'll be aware of it. Keep the physical wellness going and really subscribe to your spiritual wellness.
Um, who do you follow? Do you have, I've heard you mention briefly books that you read. Who inspires you?
I suppose at this stage in my life, well, I've always followed Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
I just adore
I
her.
do
I
too.
I and I just think she's 80 now.
Yeah.
On a more serious note with my mental wellness and physical wellness, I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Gabor Mate.
No, how do I spell that?
It's Mata, that's his last name.
Mata.
So he's a physician. He was a physician. He still is a physician in Vancouver. And he worked with the homeless and he
Hmm.
worked with addictions and trauma.
Okay.
And he's from Hungary. He's Jewish and he came here when he was young. But as a young baby, he was abandoned because he was there during World War II. And his mother had to give him to a stranger because she was being taken by the Germans.
Hmm.
Well, he ended up in Canada, became a physician, but then he got interested in addictions and everything, but he even went deeper into trauma. And he's the one who I have read about a lot of literature, like The Hungry Ghost is one of his
The
books.
Hungry Ghost.
Yeah, is one of his books.
Okay.
He talks about and he's written a whole book about the people that live in Vancouver on the streets.
Hmm.
And I've read other books. The Body Keeps the Score.
The Body Keeps the Score.
Is another book. Is a
Do you know who
really,
the author is? The Body Keeps the Score.
of course, I can't think of it
Oh, we'll
right
look it up.
now.
Yeah, well, you'll
Um,
remember it at 3 a.m.
That's another a really good book to
Okay,
read.
okay.
And this physician who writes about it talks about trauma is not so much the person, get angry at the person. Trauma happens to you and it affects you internally, and it stays there if we don't deal with it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Animals know how to deal with it, they shake it off, but we don't. And it stays with you,
mm-hmm,
and it'll rear its head in moments when you least think.
mm-hmm. I agree. I don't know if you know, but I've written a book, but I've also done a video on myofascial releasing. So it's the small ball, they're 6-inch balls. But I also believe that your emotions live in your fascia, and your fascia is like a spider webbing that literally holds you together from head to toe. So it wraps around every muscle, every blood vessel, the fascias throughout our whole body. And when your emotions get caught in various fascial parts of your body, it too needs releasing. I had an incredible experience. I was in Atlanta and I was doing a myofascial release course. And I was working on myofascial release on this man who had been in the Desert Storm in the Army. And all of a sudden, he was having this releasing moment where he felt like he was levitating off the table. And what am I doing? What have I done? But he said, you know what? He goes, I had flashes. Suddenly I was right back in Desert Storm and I just released that just now. And he was crying. And so there's a lot of ways, I'm just saying, to hold trauma and emotions. And I do
Yeah.
feel that fascia is one of them. The head is one of them. The gut is one of them. Your intestines can hold them. So it's interesting.
Yeah, Cheryl, that's so good
Uh,
what you did. That's so beautiful.
Thank
That's
you.
so beautiful. And that reminded me right now, there's a lot of literature, and some of these authors talk about it on somatic healing.
Mm-hmm,
And that's part of it,
mm-hmm,
somatic
mm-hmm.
healing, whether you do it through dance, whether you do it
Yep.
through your fascia, however, to heal. And yours is such a good example
Thank you.
of,
Yeah.
of letting this energy go, letting it go. Um,
And some people will. Some will hold it in their gut. So, next thing you know, they're fighting ulcers. Some will hold it in their intestines. And so their regularity is affected. A lot of people hold it in their minds. And, they've got that noisy ego again that's not in balance with their heart. So
yes.
we'll keep working on that and keep giving
Yeah.
people tools in the
Yeah.
toolbox. I have some other questions. When I see you at the gym, I know you've been there for many, many years. How has your workouts changed? Like, what are your priorities now at 72? When you go to the gym, what are your priorities?
So here's the thing for me, I never was a gym person.
Mm-hmm.
All through my life, I love the outdoors.
Mm.
And from a spiritual perspective, nature speaks to me. And so I've always loved the outdoors, been very active outside. And I thought, I don't want to go into a gym. Why would anybody go in a gym and work on the machines when I can hike, I can climb, I can run?
Great.
Well, maybe 3 years ago, I said to myself, I need to increase my bone density. And
Good.
this came to a conclusion when I was diagnosed with the PMR,
Mm-hmm.
polymyalgia rheumatic, arthritis in my neck, and I have arthritis in my I think it's my lumbar spine.
Right. Which, by the way, can start changing at 12 years old.
Yeah. And so, of course, I do my own research. What do I have to do? How do I have to build up my bones to keep them strong? When I was diagnosed with my pacemaker and also with the polymyalgia rheumatic, I knew I needed to change ways.
Okay.
So the silver lining was with the PMR, you need to up your gym. You need to do work with body weights.
So, how much weight are you lifting?
Um, it varies. So I'm lifting anywhere from 20 to 30 pounds now,
Holy.
and I can hang from that bar. So I'm hanging now. I can't quite do a chin up, but I'm hanging from the bar. I can do 2 sets, 25 seconds each, just hanging from the bar, just hanging.
Right on.
So I do a variety of exercise, weight bearing exercises when
Okay.
I'm in the gym. And so the silver lining for me was, Lucy, when you were diagnosed with some of these medical ailments, what do I need to do to mitigate it, improve it, and do preventative maintenance. And
Fantastic.
that's what I've been doing, and I'm consistent. The key is consistency.
Awesome. So, Lucy, I'm going to continue, though, to ask you a little bit more about your priorities at the gym. How much do you work on your, say, mobility flexibility?
A lot,
A
a
lot.
lot.
Describe that to me.
So every morning I get up and I hike up. So you know where Sparkling Hill is?
Yes.
So I hike up.
Is that you I see walking up there?
I walk up there every morning.
Do you?
4 days a week. It's about 5Ks up and then I run back down. Sometimes I walk back
Holy
down. So I do
smokes.
5Ks. Get home, get my gym bag, go into the gym. An hour and maybe 15 minutes in the gym. After I finish my weight bearing exercises, I do all sorts of stretching exercises that you taught me when I
Good.
used to go to your class,
Yay.
and do all sorts of stretching, different yoga poses, etc.
Like, have you noticed, has that changed? Has that evolved? Like, the 30-year-old self versus a 72-year-old self. How do you view those types of activities differently now? Are they the same?
When I was in my 30s, like I said, I wasn't going to the gym.
Okay.
In my 20s and 30s, I was going to aerobics
Okay.
and doing all those exercises. And I
And
was
that was a
into,
good phase,
I
wasn't it? We were
yeah,
lucky.
yes. And I was still running, training for different races when I was younger, but I was never in the gym and never doing any weight bearing exercises.
Yeah.
And you asked me, Cheryl, has that changed from my younger self to now? As I said to you earlier, I have never in my life honestly felt as good. Maybe it's the steroids, huh? I have never
No,
felt
it's
as
not.
good or as strong
It's your
as
diligence.
I do today.
Good.
And the reason for that is because now I have a different lifestyle and I reimagine
Right.
myself. No more work, no more looking after kids.
Right.
Now it's about self care and about Lucy.
But Lucy, instead of becoming more sedentary, which is a problem, for a lot of people as they retire and they don't know what to do with their time and they don't find the gym a place that they want to go, it's tough. And those are the ones that become even more sedentary. So we want to inspire people to say,
Yeah.
hey, if you're going to play in this third period of life, if we're in the third period of the hockey game and you want to be on the power play, yeah, you're going to be a little more tired in the third period. And yeah, you maybe need to get your skate sharpened and have shorter shifts. But darn it, if you want to be on that power play, what does that player look like? And it does mean then being even more diligent, watching your gut health even more and getting to, it doesn't need to be in that gym, but I must say I've never been more passionate about mobility and flexibility. And the physiotherapy brain in me keeps coming back. And yes, I like strength training. I love lifting weights myself, but boy, that mobility is so important. So starting in the feet, the ankles, the knees, the hips, the spine, and now with your arthritic symptoms in your spine, what kind of tools? And I got to say, something I could offer you is we have people rolling on a chi ball. So the chi ball is really soft, really squishy, but it gives you a tool. And I'll show at people at the end of this interview what that looks like. So a way to mobilize your neck, a way to mobilize safely your low back. So
Mhm.
that's something I'll share with you
Yeah,
and
that would be
others.
great because I need to do more neck exercises
Yeah,
for my neck for certain.
yeah. Everybody does, to be
Yes.
honest, too. If you're sitting at a desk, if you are, in front of a computer, and then if you're sedentary, trying to tell people we're held in this earth by gravity 24/7, 60 minutes, of every hour, 60 seconds of every minute. So even if you're sedentary, that posture, if it's not great, is wearing your body down.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what can we be offering these people that are, again, in this third period to make sure that they're taking care of their spine? We have tools
Yes.
to do
Yes.
that. So
Yes.
that's pretty cool.
And I love what you're saying about mobility because I often say to my partner, keep walking, keep
Yes.
moving, keep moving. And
Motion is lotion.
yes. And so my husband and I, where we golf, we can walk.
Yep.
So we walk the golf
Do
course. No
you,
carts walking.
Lucy?
Around the area where I live, I don't have a golf cart. I walk. I walk everywhere.
Good for you.
And that's what I love to do is just keep moving, keep moving, keep
Yep.
moving.
Right on.
Start taking small little baby steps.
Absolutely. You said how much you enjoy Jane Fonda, and same thing. If she's my number one, if I had to pick just one idol, especially being in the fitness industry, but Jane does that great visual of how we can ascend and continue to ascend,
Mhm.
as especially spiritually. So, we can keep training our mind. We can keep improving our mind and our spirit right up until we take our last breath. So that's a great focus. You know, we had a little break and you asked me if I stayed in touch with my old roommate, Pamela Anderson. And you were sharing, Lucy, how you're enjoying watching Pamela and who she's transitioning into. Now, she's a little younger, but share with me, why Pamela? Why is she catching your attention?
It just really inspired me.
Cool.
Here's a lady who her life took a different trajectory to she was reinventing herself and asking
Again,
herself,
yes, that
who am I?
reinventing is what we're enjoying.
So natural and so authentic.
Great.
That's the other
Yeah.
thing. Authenticity is so important. Be who you really are.
Well, boy, I think we've covered just a remarkable amount of information, Lucy, and how you have transitioned into this third period, and you're coming ready to play. You're not going to be sitting on the bench in this game. You're going to be on the power play. Darn it, you're going to make sure that you are staying mentally ready, physically ready, emotionally ready, and that put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. Put me in,
And
coach.
coach,
I'm ready
ready
to
to
play.
play.
Right.
It sounds beautiful. You want to be ready.
And let's not let this aging thing catch us by surprise. We were just in Saskatchewan last weekend at my mom's 90th birthday. And as I said, my grandma passed at 102 and she lived independently till she was 100. So that's a long story. And we want to make sure it doesn't catch us by surprise.
Yes.
Have that strategy, have that plan in
Yeah.
place. And Lucy, that is what I see in you. I think we should go do some exercises. Do you want to go exercise with me for a little bit?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you,
Pleasure.
Lucy. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
Wow, what an inspiring conversation with Lucy Bleviss. I just loved how she reframed aging and not as a winding down, but as a chance to embrace spontaneity, wellness, and joy. Her message is clear that challenges are just opportunities and letting go can be liberating and living fully as possible at any age. So I hope Lucy's story encourages you to think about your own golden years. So whether you're stepping into them now or they're still ahead of you, what brings you joy? What can you let go of? And how can you reimagine yourself in this chapter? Hey, if you enjoyed today's episode of Rocking the Ages, be sure to subscribe, share with a friend, and leave a review. And most importantly, keep rocking your age, whatever it may be. Until next time, I'm Cheryl Soleway, and this is Rocking the Ages.